Hey everyone, Dr. Dan Ritchie, president of FAI, the Functional Aging Institute. And this session we're going to be talking about active agers, and the most powerful fitness consumer. I call this Sales and Marketing 201. We're going to get into kind of a little bit of advanced strategies here. If you've seen any of my other sales and marketing stuff, we'll talk some values-based educational marketing. But really, this is a session about marketing and sales and who is an affluent active ager and how do we define those customers. So we're not going to be talking about training, how to train them, personal training, functional training. My other session I talk about functional circuits for active aging clients and even non-active aging clients, functional circuits for aging clients of all functional abilities. So if you're looking for training, hop over to that session. But this is probably the most important session that I teach. Sadly, it's probably the least attended session. People don't want to talk sales and marketing. They want to talk 19 different ways to do a push-up, right? But at the end of the day, if you're going to help more people, you need to know how to market, communicate what it is you do, and you need to know how to do sales. Sales is nothing more than helping someone make a great decision to purchase a training program with you that's going to change their lives. That's what sales is. And so you need to get better at it. You need to learn how to do it. So let's start with, how long will you live? It's not something we always like to think about or spend much time on. Sometimes it even gets a little bit, oh gee, I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about the day I'm going to die. But let's look on the bright side. Maybe you're going to live to 100. What's your number? You going to live to 90, 97, 104? I wish I could see your hands going up, right? Now add 10 years to your number. Does that number get a little bit more, catch your attention? Like, ooh, I don't know if I want to live that long. What if we had 15 to your number? You realize there are people living right now today that are already 15 years beyond their life expectancy, right? In fact, people who are 80 years old today, their life expectancy back in 1942 was about 65, 67 years old, right? So they're lived way beyond their life expectancy. And what if you do? We have to think about this when we think about aging. It's really changing. It really, really is. In fact, South Korea is about to be the first country in the world's history to have life expectancy beyond 90. 90. That is absolutely unheard of life expectancy. Now, if you're having life expectancy in your country beyond 90, that includes infant mortality and cancer and getting hit by a bus and suicide and accidental death and accidental explosions and fires and all cause mortalities in life expectancy, right? So if we're expecting women to live to 92 years old in South Korea, that means they're going to routinely be living to 100, right? If they avoid infant mortality and cancer and getting hit by a bus and live into their 80s and 90s, pretty good chance they're going to make it to 100. I mean, France will be closing in on upper 80s. Even Chile is going to be closing in on upper 80s. But we've never seen anything like this, and it's going to have ramifications. When we think about, we expect people, right? There's been a norm of, well, we expect people in their 60s and for sure their 70s to start slowing down a little bit, retiring, not working as hard, because we used to expect they were in their last 5 to 10 years. But what if they're in their last 30? Right? It has an impact. And we look at the United States, we realize we're in this massive expansion of the 65 and older population, like nothing we've ever seen. We have no history markers for this. You go back to 1950, there's about 12 million people over the age of 65. 12 million. It'd be a small percentage of the population. In fact, to live beyond 65, you were old, right? You were in the old population. I mean, look at 2000. I'm 2-3 years into my career. In the early 2000s, there's only about 3 million people in the U.S. over the age of 85. Fast forward to about 2022, and we're approaching 10 million people. It's almost tripled in the last 20 years. And by 2050, when all of the baby boomers are in their 80s or 85 and up, we'll have 20 million of them. More than double what we have today, which is significant when you think about what the 85 and older population needs, the amount of services they need, the amount of care they need, nursing home beds, hospice care, It's going to be significant when our country gets there in about 30 years. I'll be 75 at the time. It will be an interesting time. But look at the 65 and older. It's not slowing down. In fact, the baby boomer peak ends here in about 8 years, right around 2030. So that huge spike there is the baby boom generation. But then, of course, the Gen Xers are turning 65, and it's continuing to climb because people are living longer, right? Baby boomers are going to all be over 65, and when they all get over 65, they're going to be 65 to 83 with a large percentage of them still alive, right? They're not just dying off like we thought they would back in the 1940s when we put out the first Social Security check. People were living to 66, 67 years old. Well, now that almost seems ridiculous, right? To expect people to be dying at 66, 67, right? They're going to live into their 80s in most cases, and many beyond that. People are going to be living into their late 80s and even early 90s. If you're a woman in your 60s, you have a 1 in 3 chance of making it to 100. I mean, think about that. We're going to see a lot of women making it to 100, right? I mean, right now we're talking about we're around 60 million people that are 65 and older. More than half of those are women. So, I mean, we're going to see tens of millions of people living to 100 in the next 30, 40 years. It's going to become much more commonplace. So, active agers, who are they? Affluent agers, who are they? Are they seniors? Are they baby boomers? Are they 50 plus? Are they Gen Xers? Well, the 50 plus market's over 100 million. In fact, the 55 plus market's over 100 million already. The 55 plus market's over 1 out of 3 people in the US, and it's going to grow about 3 times the rate of the 18 to 49 year old, which is going to stay pretty steady, pretty stagnant. Not a lot of growth in that population. Birth rate's not exploding. So it's going to grow a little bit, but not a lot. The 50 plus is going to continue to grow bigger and bigger. And what does this mean? This is a population that has more spending power, more money, more wealth, more fitness and physical need, and in many cases more time and availability to actually train with us. So it's really the perfect storm that Cody and I have been saying for years. The numbers are massive. The need continues to grow. In fact, I argue every decade you need fitness more. Now, I'm not saying you don't need fitness when you're a kid, you don't need fitness in your teens, you don't need fitness in your 20s. Of course you do. But I think you can get away with it a little bit more in your 20s than you can in your 70s. You can't get away with it anymore. The desire is there, not for everyone. I'm not saying every affluent person or every aging 60-year-old has the desire to do anything in the world of fitness. Not everyone, for sure. The finances are strong, much stronger, and the lack of competition is huge. It's the perfect storm. It absolutely is. But you want to be what we call the upper half. You want to be in the upper half. Now, we've redesigned this chart a couple of different ways, and we've got a couple of different variations, and we've got some that have more women and some that have more diversity, and you can't really see this great probably, but this one doesn't look like upper half because it's not half and top and bottom, but the elite athlete there is number 1 in the green, the fully fit is number 2, the semi-fit's number 3, the higher independent's number 4. You want to be 1 through 4. You don't want to be in the lower independent, the pre-frail, the frail, or the dependent. And if you slip into lower independent, you should be scratching, clawing, fighting, kicking, giving everything you got to get back in the higher independent category, because we know your likelihood of living longer in that top half, living better, living more functional, more independent is far, far higher. You slip into the lower independent and you're one accident, one slip, one trip, one cancer diagnosis, one COVID diagnosis, one illness from slipping into pre-frail and not recovering, and pretty soon you're on a downward spiral, right? The lower independent person slips, trips, falls, breaks their hip. A year later, they're dead and gone. And you're like, how did that happen? Grandma was cooking Thanksgiving last year, and this year she's not with us, right? Grandpa was doing cool stuff, seemed like he was doing okay, but if we're really honest, we're like, yeah, maybe they weren't actually as functional as they should have been. They had given up a couple of their hobbies. They did stop golfing. They did stop going to certain activities, and we start to be honest, we realize they weren't all that functional, and that injury of a hip fracture was just too much for them to recover from fully, and they wound up on a quick downward spiral that researchers actually call the death spiral. And so we don't want to be in that lower independent category, right? We expect the semi-fit or fully fit person, if they fall and have an injury, well, they're going to bounce back just like any of us would, right? If I fall and break my hip, I'm not going to die in a year, right? I'm going to recover. So you want to stay in the upper half. The functional aging training model tells us that training for function is complex. This is why we've certified functional aging specialists in 49 out of 50 states. If you're from Wyoming, please reach out. I've got a free certification for you. We're looking to get that 50 out of 50 states. Function is complex. So I'm 72 years old and I want to stay in that upper half. Well, what do I need to be doing? Not just walking. Cardio is not enough. Walking is going to get me a little bit of mobility, some walking gait over here, right on the far right. Cardio over here. It's not going to maintain my strength, my speed, my power, my neuromuscular function, my proprioception, my center of gravity control, or my cognitive emotional, right? There's a lot more to it. And strength training, is it great? Sure, right? It's over here in the blue, right? It's not enough. In fact, research study after research study after research study, there's over 100 of them in the research literature. Can we get older adults stronger? Absolutely. Does that get them more functional? No, it does not. I mean, look at the chart. Would you expect strength training alone to dramatically impact function? You shouldn't when you look at this chart. We got to be training all 6 domains. And obviously each domain gets deeper and more complex in subsets, right? Strength alone has 4 different categories: eccentric, concentric, isometric, eccentric, concentric, when we're pushing and pulling at the same time, right? There's complexity to even strength training, and then of course you get power involved, and now we're talking strength and speed. There's a lot to it. We don't want to have this attitude that the fitness industry has had too long, right? This has been a common problem, the 7 dwarves of old age, right? Nappy, wrinkly, squinty, rocky, saggy, farty, that my kids think is the funniest, right? Leaky, well, that's not very nice. We have this negative view of this is what it is to be old, and the reality is it's distorted. We tend to have a negative view of aging that's much worse than what it is. In fact, in most cases, it's 2 to 3 times worse than reality. I mean, look at the survey here. Memory loss. 57% of people 18 to 64 think people over 65 are experiencing memory loss. Like more than half of people. And age 65 plus, the experience is 25%. One in 4 are dealing with some sort of cognitive memory loss. Not able to drive, 45%. It's only 14. I mean, we're 3 times worse in what we think. A serious illness, 42%. I mean, we think basically to be old is to be sick. And I say we, I'm saying the 18 to 64 year olds because I'm in that category. If you're in the 65 plus category, realize people that are younger than you think to be over 65 is really bad. And this doesn't even make sense. A serious illness, 42%. Not sexually active, 34%. So we think you're seriously ill, but we still think that some of you are sexually active while seriously ill. I don't think we wanted to answer that question. Only 21% are no longer sexually active. And when we dig into that, a lot of that is due to singleness or widow, people living alone, right? So we don't even know if they would be sexually active if they continue to have a partner. The flip side of that is 79% of people are still sexually active or still getting it on, so to speak, right? We realize people 18 to 64 don't even want to think about that, right? But of course, when they get to be 65, I'm sure they hope to continue to be sexually active with their partner. Feeling sad or depressed, not feeling needed, we're off on that one, almost 3 to 1. Loneliness, trouble paying bills. I mean, that one's sort of interesting to me. We're talking about, in a lot of cases, a wealthier generation being a burden. So we view aging much more negative than it actually happens to be. In fact, most people over 65 have a very positive report and experience as to what aging is actually like. I think Johanna here says it right. Stereotypes of weak older people hurt us all. I like showing younger people what's possible. Here she is at 88, upside down on the parallel bars. Ida at 99 in a great push-up plank position. We need to see more stereotypes of people doing cool things. And we don't even need to call them amazing things anymore. We just say, hey, that's what 88-year-olds can do, right? They can do the parallel bars and they can do gymnastics. And Ida is doing push-ups, and Ida has been a world record holder in, I think, a plank hold for her age, the 100-meter dash for her age, different competition. So let's talk about marketing. Values-based educational marketing is typically our approach, right? We want to tap into the values that people have as they age, and we want to educate them as to why they need this approach. Why do you need functional training at all? Why do you need fitness in your life? Especially if you're a 68-year-old and, man, life is good. I just recently retired. I've got more free time. I'm doing the things I enjoy doing. I'm doing stuff with my family. I'm traveling. I'm taking trips. I'm doing more volunteering, more charity work. Right? So we have to have a values-based educational marketing approach to get clients, in touch with what it is we do. And we're trying to build a relationship of trust and authority. That's really our end goal. So kind of 3 foundations of values-based educational marketing: life stage, human development and aging, and 5 core values. So I want you to be thinking about that as you see these things. Seasons of life, right? We talk about life stage marketing, seasons of life. We have to acknowledge that we're not marketing to people that are in the spring or summer of their life. They're in the autumn and winter, right? They're not in the stage of life where they're having kids. They're not in the stage of life where they're starting a career. They're not in the stage of life where they're buying their first home, right? They're not in that stage of life where they need childcare, right? So they're in the autumn or winter, right? Raising kids is behind them. In some cases, their career is half behind them or 3/4 behind them or complete. They're at that next half of life, and in some cases they're in that final chapter of life, right? They're in winter and they're thinking about what they want to do with the remainder of their years and making them count. They're thinking more about legacy and things like that. So life stage marketing, what stage of life are they in? What are their unique needs, their likes, their wants? What sort of opportunities and barriers are there? What are their current life goals? What's their activities, their habits, their schedules? If they're retired, their schedule might be still really full and busy because they're doing all sorts of other things, right? They're now pursuing their passions, their hobbies, their charities. What sort of activities and habits fill their day? And how can our programs enhance everything it is that their current life goals, activities, habits, and schedules are about? What's happening in fall and winter, right? Health status, career status. Are they still working? Are they retired, semi or fully retired? Have they changed careers? They kind of downsized their career and they're starting to graduate out, right? Here in a university town, very common for people to go through a 5-year retirement period at the university, right? They go from a full-time professor to a half-time professor over 5 years. And they're kind of gradually shifting out of full academic life into what we call semi-retired life. And in some cases, they have half of the year off, right? They're there and present for a full academic semester, and then the next semester they're completely off, and in some cases they don't even know what to do with themselves, right? And so they got to get busy doing something. Traveling, snowbirding, right? Here in the Midwest, lots of snowbirds go to Florida, Texas, Alabama, Arizona for the winter time because they just don't want to dig out snow anymore. They don't want to slip and fall on ice. They just don't want to have to deal with winter. They're tired of it. Well, if they're snowbirding, they can afford fitness. We already know they're qualified. Marital status, we've got them all, right? Married, widowed, divorced, family status. Most of them are empty nesters. Most have grandkids, and many have aging parents that they're taking care of or looking after to some degree. So they may be doing both things. They've got kids they're helping, grandkids coming along, and aging parents. So a lot happening in their life. Behavior in the first half of life is oriented to the needs of the social self. Behavior in the second half of life becomes much more oriented to the needs of the inner self. What is it that I really need to take care of myself? Because at this stage in life, nobody's taking care of you anymore. In fact, you may begin taking care of your parents. So not only are you helping your kids and grandkids, you're helping your parents too. And so behavior becomes more focused on what do I need to take care of me? When we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we realize we move through these stages. Most of us do, right? When we start out early in life, right? Basic physiological needs, things like breathing and food and water and sleep. I mean, like, this is why bedtime is a crucial thing for children, right? They need to eat on time. They need to, right? Basic physiology, safety, right? Security, get a job, have clothing, have housing. These are why family units are important, right? Love and belonging, right? We move up into family, relationships, friendships, sexual intimacy, partners, building another generation of family. Esteem, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect from others, respect of others, respect by others, right? There's kind of different levels of respect. And then self-actualization, which is where we hope most people mature to, right? People start to think a little bit differently at this level of life, right? I'm not so concerned about my safety and where I'm going to live and my home and my partner, and a lot of those needs are taken care of, and so now I'm thinking about my higher needs. Erickson's developmental stages breaks it down almost from early childhood into young adulthood, adulthood, and maturity. And we move towards this generativity versus stagnation from ages 40 to 65. I begin to be more concerned about being generous and how I'm having an impact in the community, my family, and the world, the greater world. From 18 to 40, I'm not as focused on that, right? I'm more focused on intimacy versus isolation. I'm more focused on my relationships and making sure I'm building friendships and, getting connected to potentially a life partner, right? Ego, integrity versus despair. We'll talk about that one a little bit greater here, right? Generativity versus stagnation. How can I contribute to the world? It's more about what am I leaving to the world? How am I making the world a better place? This becomes more important. I mean, I know this now, even at 47. I'm more focused on this now than I would have been 20 years ago for sure, right? 20 years ago, I'm focused on, oh my gosh, I've got 4 kids to feed, and me and my wife have a mortgage to pay, and you're more focused on the immediate needs, and you get to a certain age and you're like, what sort of impact am I actually having? Leaving. You start to even use words like leaving, or like what's going to be left behind when I'm gone, right? Ego, integrity versus despair shifts even more. Right now I'm in that later stage of life. Did I live a meaningful life, right? That's the maturity of the 65 plus, right? We start to think, not only did I live a meaningful life, did I leave a meaningful life behind, right? So that's a shift in mindset, and we have to think about that when we're marketing, right? When we're marketing to a 65-year-old and someone older than that, they're already thinking about, hey, this is the final third of my life. I got to make every hour count, every day count, every week count, every trip count. I mean, you start to hear people in their 70s and 80s say, I don't know how many summers I have left, but I got to make them count with my grandkids, right? I might have 9 summers left. I might have 19, right? That's a shift in mindset, right? I don't think about I have 9 summers left. But I've started to, of course, I study this population. I've started to think this way a little bit in terms of my kids, right? It's like, oh, gee, the kids are moving out. This may be the last spring break we have with all the kids, so let's make it count. In fact, we booked a trip in 2019 to England to take our kids, and it was going to be an expense, right? My wife was like, oh, can we afford it? And I said, well, hey, airfare is $300. Now, I have 5 kids, so you can do the math. Like, that's a deal on airfare, but it's still over $2,000 to get the 7 of us to England. And then you're like, where on earth are we going to stay? Well, fortunately, FAI has a great fitness partner that gave us a flat in London, and we had a fantastic time. But we looked at it and said, this may be the last spring break that all 7 of us ever have together ever again, because our oldest, his university spring break lined up with our kids in high school and middle school. Well, we were fortunate this year. Everyone's spring break lined up again, so we took a fantastic trip to the Smoky Mountains. But you start to see why someone in their 70s starts to say, hey, this might be my last trip to Europe. This might be one of my last family reunions. Am I going to make it count, right? And so we've got to think about that when we're thinking about our marketing communication and understanding all that, right? So what does all this mean? Older consumers have different worldviews than younger consumers. They're thinking about things differently. They're at a different stage in life. And so a fitness program that allows them to take better trips, maybe more trips, right? Because they're thinking, well, shoot, I got the Galapagos Islands on my list. I got Antarctica on my list. I got Alaska on my list. I want to go to Europe 2 more times. I mean, we had a client come to us. She's like, I want to go to Europe every 2 years for the rest of my life. And if I can go 2 more times because I'm training with you, right? Younger consumers don't talk that way or think that way. Older consumers have different challenges in their lives. I already told you they might be taking care of aging parents and helping their grandkids. That's a huge gap. I'm not taking care of aging parents, and I don't even have grandkids. They're seeking to satisfy different needs in their life. They're increasingly complex consumers. They're very relational consumers. They want to get to know you, like you, and trust you, and they want you to know their name and their needs and what they're about. They're all the same in some ways and vastly different in others, right? That means some want to continue to play golf, and that's all they want to do, right? And then we can think, oh, well, men in their 70s are all golfers. Not true at all, right? The next person might be like, I hate golf, I have no interest in golf, but they want to travel, right? The next consumer, I don't really like traveling, but I want to do, right? In some ways they're the same, but at the same time vastly different. And golfers, I think, are a thread that many older adults have in common, even though many don't golf, right? Values-based. Messages must align with their values. Your business must align with their values. And values are universally individual, right? We all value slightly different things. But there are some things I think that we can align with that older active adults can really line up with and get excited about. 5 core values that we think people have as they age. It's just a natural part of the maturation process. Identity. We all want to achieve a more idealized version of ourselves, and we're pushing to be successful, becoming the person that they've spent years defining. So we don't do things like, hey, 60 is the new 40, or you want to be young again, or you want to fight it. No, you want to be the best 64-year-old you can possibly be, right? Like, wait, I'm a grandparent. You're telling me I want to be 30 again? I don't want to be a grandparent at 30. These things don't line up. I want to be a rock star, kick-ass grandmother, right? Like, make them be the best version of themselves they possibly can be, someone they've been becoming for 64 years, right? Relationships, spend quantity and quality time with family and friends. Enhance the fact that they want to do stuff with their kids, their grandkids, their friends, their spouse, their golf partners, their bingo buddies, whatever it is. Those relationships are important. Purpose, I think, is a huge value for all of us. I think this gets more important as we get older, right? Heading a charity, volunteering for a charity. You hear charity work as such an important thing to this generation. In some cases, they have more time for it. They're more passionate about it because they have more time for it. Working might continue to be a purpose. I want to keep working until I'm 70. I've heard that many times. I want to keep working until I'm 75. I heard one male client, my favorite, he said, I'm going to keep working until they drag me away from this keyboard, kicking and screaming, right? I don't care if I have to come in with a walker, I want to keep working. That was a value for him. Teaching at church, volunteering at the community center, helping others. I don't think, for the vast majority of humans, we have a switch that flips. We get to a certain age where we're like, okay, I'm out. I no longer have to serve any purpose in life. I'm going to go sit in a rocking chair. I'll be on the cruise ship. No, I think we want to continue to have meaningful purpose. In fact, I think we see some people start to go, man, I got some catching up to do. I got some making up to do. I messed up some things when I was younger. And now I want to make it count, right? I want to be purposeful. I want to give back. I want to volunteer. I want to help others. And we see some people, man, they want to be better grandparents than maybe they were even parents. And in some cases, they've got more freedom, more time, and more financial resources to do that, right? Adaptation, having skills and resources to face challenges, caring for aging parents, supporting adult children, downsizing, empty nesting, retiring. There's so many adaptations that sometimes we underestimate, right? We're just like, oh man, I can't wait to retire. Well, think about that for a second. If for 40 years you've identified yourself as an attorney, a dentist, a doctor, a teacher, a firefighter, a policeman, whatever it is, right? There's so many different roles. Well, now I'm retired and I'm not sure who my identity is. And that adaptation of retiring to, I don't know what I do, is a big adaptation. Downsizing from my home to a smaller home, having grandkids, having aging parents. I mean, there's just a lot of adaptation. In some cases, people move across country to be closer to their grandkids, and then they're kind of lost, right? They don't have their friends, they don't have their church, they don't have their social connections. Energy. Energy, I think, impacts every one of those four, right? If I have greater energy, I have a greater identity of myself. If I have greater energy, I can deal with all the adaptations in life. If I have greater energy, man, I can be more purposeful. If I have greater energy, I can do all the things relationally I want to do with all my family, right? So obviously a lot of these cross over. How does your fitness program impact somebody's identity, somebody's relationships, somebody's energy? You start tapping into those things, people will want to sign up for that, right? My fitness program is going to help you be a more purposeful person with greater vigor and energy to impact the world and change your community. Well, I want to sign up for that, right? I don't really want to sign up for the push-ups. I don't really want to do the exercises you're going to make me do, but I want that. It's universally individual, right? Values carry different weight for different people. For some people, relationships is the number one most important thing. I want to be a great grandmother, right? I want to be a great parent. I want to be a great friend, a great golfing buddy. For other people, that's not as high on the list, right? Values are interpreted according to their life situation. So know your ideal client and know how you're speaking to them. How does your ideal client interpret their value needs, and how does fitness fulfill them? I talked about that a little bit, right? If identity is so critical, and for men, sometimes that identity is independence, functional ability to do stuff. I can still take care of my home. I can do all the things I need to do, right? So, sort of that tough guy mentality, right? For some women, it's, man, my identity and my relationship are so important because I've got to stay healthy for so many other people I like to serve and take care of, right? I got to stay healthy because I still got to take care of my mom. I got to stay healthy because I want to do stuff with my daughters and my granddaughters. My identity of fitness, health, and strength is tied to relationships. So how does your fitness program fulfill them, right? Older consumers want to be educated. They want to make an educated buying decision. They want to know they're making the best purchase decision for themselves based on the facts and the education. You got to provide some high value content. This is why being a functional aging specialist and talking about the 6 domains of function and explaining that you understand what it's like to be 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, that makes a difference, right? It's got to be relational so they trust you, but you have to be an authority too. You're just not another trainer that has another fitness program. You're a functional aging specialist that knows what it's like to be 55, knows what it's like to be 75, knows what it's like to need maximal function as you age, and that you can't afford to get hurt through training. So you got to have whole brain messaging to your marketing, to your communication, to your messages, right? We've got to lead with the right side of the brain. Notice all the colors and the beauty and sort of the artistic side of things, right? That emotional connection. Speak the language of aspiration. Tell a story. Be poignant. Use compelling images. Use real people if possible, rather than stock photos. Now, there are better and better stock photos out there, but we all know a stock photo typically when we see it. So try to use real people if you can. Tell a story. Inspire people. I mean, it would be awesome if a 72-year-old walked in and they're like, you know what, I saw your story about your client that went to the Galapagos Islands, and I was already thinking that it might be too late for me, but your client who was 76 went to the Galapagos Islands, and now I'm thinking maybe I can still go. I mean, you know you've already got that person, right? They're ready to sign up for the program because they've just about got both of you in tears, right? They're like, I had no idea that this could still happen for me. Tell stories. Sell through story. Story selling, not just storytelling. Then give people the facts, right? The information they need. This is how it works. This is how the functional aging training model works. This is why we do 3 sessions a week for 30 minutes, and we do some functional strength and some balance, and some core and some postural, and right, this is what you're going to do, Mrs. Jones. You need to sign up for our 30-week program, right? But you got to start with stuff that people dream about, right? That they just connect to. They desire to be that person, right? I can see 6 months from now, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be a better spouse, a better grandmother, a better volunteer. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be able to live the life I've really wanted to live in my 70s, right? So your marketing has to be everywhere your ideal client goes. Online, offline, neighborhoods, restaurants, spas, charities, social groups, secret societies. What's a secret society, you ask? I had a group of women. They would not tell me the name of their society. All they would say is, well, we're a secret charity club. All we can tell you is we're a philanthropy group, but we can't tell you our name. It's like, seriously? Like, do you have a name? Yeah, we have a name, but we won't tell you. So I didn't really push it. And then I showed up to speak to them to talk about all of this and why they need to be focused on their function. And I realized, oh, there's a lot of well-known women in here that everybody would know are millionaires. They've got a lot of money, and they want to remain anonymous. They want to be able to give money to, somebody's house burns down, or a kid that needs help going to college, or, some firefighter dies and they want to support his widow. Whatever it happens to be, right? They want to be able to give money away anonymously without anybody knowing, right? Really cool. You've got to be there. You got to be in all those places, high touch places. Always remember, what's in it for me? The older we get, we honestly get more focused on that. Hey, at the end of the day, if I'm 72, I might only have 10 years left. What's this going to do for me? Because I don't have a lot of time to mess around, right? What's in it for me? Make them an offer they can't refuse. Publish a book. We do book publishing. I've got several here. I'll show you just a handful. I mean, look at all these books we've published. Right? Tons and tons of fitness authors over the years. There's Lisa Wright, your personal best. She's done over $100,000 in personal training contracts off of this book alone. There's mine. Young Longer. Shelly Turk, Younger Longer, I think she's done over 100,000 off of this book as well. So a book is a great offline marketing strategy. You put a book in somebody's hand and you can give them tons of value, tons of content, tons of educational marketing, right? Fit Body Forever is a program we developed with Fit Body Bootcamp. Now, unless you're a Fit Body Bootcamp owner, you can't do this, but you can do our other program, which is available to everyone. So what's Fit Body Forever? Well, it's a unique small group training program that fits right inside a Fit Body Bootcamp. Guess what? Most boot camps aren't running at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., noon. Well, let's train clients there that can, right? So 60, 70, and even 80-year-olds. Nissan Trotter, he added over $100,000 a year to his Fit Body Bootcamp. He's like, I got clients who are 88 years old. I had no idea people 88 years old would come train with me. I'm like, well, they won't come to Fit Body Bootcamp because that name's probably scary, but they will come to Fit Body Forever, right? So who are these ideal clients? I think if you really narrow it down, I think they're women 55 to 70, honestly. They're above average affluence. They're educated. Obviously, they got to live within a reasonable proximity to your facility, probably a 15-minute drive, no more. They're working, retired, and everything in between. Boomer women are the most dominant consumer in the world right now. This is what we're seeing really take off in even online fitness, right? Women in their 57 to 75 are boomer women. Women in their upper 50s and 60s, nobody's doing anything for them online. And nobody's really doing much for them in facilities either. If you do a really good job for women in their 60s, you can easily have a $500,000 training business. And we've shown lots of studios how to do this. Shelly Turk was just one. We helped her open and launch, and she's doing over $400K a year. You absolutely can do that. Grandmothers obviously are a segment of essentially baby boomer women, though you'll have some grandmothers that are Gen Xers, in their early 50s, and some grandmothers over 75, your senior or traditionalist generation. Couples, right? People want to do stuff together. They want to travel. I got to this stage in life with my spouse, and now we can't do the stuff we always wanted to do because she can't move as well or he can't. sometimes they bring each other, and that's great. The fit but category is that kind of semi-fit client I talked about earlier. You want to stay in the top half, but they know they don't want to do crazy anymore, right? This was the client who's like, I'm not doing Fit Body Boot Camp because I might get hurt, but I'll do Fit Body forever. That sounds more appropriate for me. They want to make sure you're not going to hurt them. In fact, many of them have been hurt or gotten hurt, or they were working out too hard on their own, or they were working with a trainer that pushed them too hard and they hurt a shoulder or a knee or a back or whatever. The last thing they want to do is get hurt again. So they want a safe program. So your education for these clients has to be focused on safety first, right? Functional movement and assessment and understanding the client, and never focused on crushing and killing people, but focused on training, enhancing, and helping people move and feel better. The unfit, the unhealthy. Here's that Galapagos Island story. And I've shared this story often. We had a client, Joanne, who came to us very unfit, very unhealthy, Parkinson's disease, 80 years old, can barely walk a block, but she had a dream, and her dream was to go to the Galapagos Islands and experience the trip in all that she could, and not hold her husband Don back, and not be a burden, and not be a drag, and not fully experience the trip. And after a year of training with us, she made it. Here's the after picture. There is no before picture. Here's the after picture of her on the coast of the Galapagos Islands. The program we do offer now to anyone and everyone, Fit Body Forever, like I said, is only for Fit Body Bootcamp owners, and you have to go through Fit Body Bootcamp for that. You can't come through us for that. Ageless Fitness is a program we offer to anyone and everyone. Anytime fitness owners have done it. Mom and pop open from scratch studios have done it. People who are like, I want to open a studio because I want to train people in their 60s and 70s, and I don't have a name, I don't have a brand, I don't have a logo, I don't have any marketing materials. So we've done it with existing health clubs. We've done it with startups from nothing. We basically give you the entire business model, monthly coaching, monthly marketing, done for you training, but really the whole model. If that's something you're interested in, we'd love to have a conversation with you about that. So we can get you rolling in about 60 days. It's pretty fast. If you have a current location and you're thinking, boy, we're not training enough people between 10 and 1, you should be generating between 10 and 15,000 a month in personal training, small group training between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. If you're not generating that currently, then you're really missing a big gap in the market, which are these ageless fitness clients, these active agers. They fit right in. All right, the Functional Aging Training Model. You can learn more about it at the Functional Aging Institute. Go to our website. We do have weekly webinars. We've got probably 30 different courses. We'd love for you to get certified. Functional aging specialists can really communicate, market, and explain what it is they're doing for these clients a lot better. And then, of course, you can get them better results because you know how to do it. And follow us on Facebook. Grab our free starter kit. We've got tons of free resources. I mean, tons and tons of free resources. Attend our Functional Aging Summit. We just had the 8th annual in June. Every year it's been in June. I believe it'll be in June in 2023 again. We're working on the location, looking at Salt Lake City. I believe we'll be signing a hotel contract soon. So look for June 2023, Functional Aging Summit. You really don't want to get left behind, because I think this is going to continue to be the dominant opportunity moving forward. Competition's going to come. It really is. So I think it's where you should be. So thanks for watching. I do have that other session on functional circuits. If you haven't seen that yet, please check that out. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to us, contact@functionalaginginstitute.com, and please check out our website. So thanks so much, everyone. Succeed has always been a great event. Thanks for having me.